Hello, everyone, and welcome to this afternoon's webinar on adhesives for wearable devices and the unique challenges of skin attachment. We're all good to start here, but if you don't mind, I'll ask you to just bear with me for maybe 30 seconds or a minute just to ensure that all registered participants have had time to join. So just bear with me for a moment, please. Okay, I think most of you are in now, so I'll begin. So thanks again, everyone. My name is Karen McCarthy, and I'm the Technical Sales Manager here at Adhesives Research, based in our Ireland facility. I'll be joined in a few moments by my colleague Fiona O'Brien from the Innovation Department, who'll be running through today's technical presentation. Okay, so I guess I really just want to extend my appreciation for you joining us today. I know you're all super busy being creative and developing these amazing devices, so I appreciate you taking the 30 minutes or so out of your day to join us here. Okay, so for the structure for today's webinar, so first of all, I'll just very quickly go through some webinar housekeeping with you. I'll give you a brief introduction in terms of the how and the why we're so successful in this realm. This will lead into a presentation by Fiona O'Brien on the unique challenges of skin attachment, and this will be followed by some Q&A. Okay, so for webinar housekeeping, okay, you'll be in listen and view only mode, and you'll not be able to activate your webcam or your microphone. The Q&A session will be held at the end of the presentation, so please submit your questions through the Q&A feature. You're allowed to send anonymous questions and allowed to view all questions, but you cannot upvote. Any unanswered questions will be followed up after the webinar, and the recording can be accessed on demand post the event. And if at any stage you need special assistance, please use the raise hand feature. Okay, so just want to answer very briefly 2 questions for you today before you go into Fiona's presentation, which will cover the majority of topics. But I guess the first question is, why do we invest so much of our innovation resource in skin-friendly adhesive platforms? And the question to this quite simply is, we know the impact it has. So you're giving us a chance to play a critical role in developing devices that improve people's lives. Say, for example, if it's a monitor that a device that monitors blood glucose levels, whether it delivers insulin, whether it measures heart rate, monitors sleep patterns, and so on. You're all building products that make a difference, and we take our role in that as your partner very, very seriously. I think from Fiona's presentation, you'll see that we understand the challenges you face when you're designing these devices. We know the skin is the most dynamic and challenging substrate to bond to. Our participation in your product development extends beyond the skin adhesive alone. We know that the other layers of your device can be equally critical. So the specifics of your device, the placement on the body, the total device construction, these are all factors that can impact the performance. And here at Adhesives Research, we understand how to help you troubleshoot these issues. We understand the correlation between adhesive performance and device accuracy. And most importantly, we understand what's ultimately a risk, and that is the patient's health. Okay, and this is the second question. So how do we deliver these safe technologies? So we do this by using clean adhesive expertise. Now, Fiona will go through details with you about the biocompatibility of our products. So obviously biocompatibility is a critical requirement, but we find there's more to it than just passing the standard ISO tests. So in addition to the careful study and selection of non-sensitizing materials, we've developed some unique processes which are proven to significantly reduce residual monomers. So these are the leave-behinds that can cause skin irritation, discomfort, and in some cases even allergic reaction. So these methods are applied to our skin adhesive development as well as device bonding adhesives to minimize the risk and maximize patient comfort. And just there to add to our note that we take your skin adhesive challenges personally. I guess the way to kind of demonstrate this to you is if you've ever been to our site, or if hopefully you'll get a chance to in the future with them once COVID situation improves and we've all been vaccinated and we can all be in the same room together again. But when that happens and you get the chance to come to our campus, it won't be unusual to see individuals wearing multiple devices. So obviously members of our innovation team who are strenuously striving to develop these amazing technologies, but also people from our operations, from our sales, executives, administrators, numerous people across the site will routinely participate in our internal wear studies. So whether we're exploring new long-term wear skin-friendly adhesives or evaluating new substrates to improve the breathability of a construction, we're taking these challenges personally. We're applying them to our skin, we're studying the effects, capturing the feedback in real time, and constantly improving. Now, my hope is that you'll take away something today that you can immediately apply to a project you're working on, and that you'll consider us as a skin adhesive resource going forward. I hope you enjoy this presentation, and I encourage you to raise your questions in the Q&A session afterwards. And with that, I'm going to hand you over to Fiona.
Hello, my name is Fiona O'Brien. I am a Senior Product Development Chemist at Adhesive Research. I am delighted to be here today to present on the unique challenges of skin attachment. First, I'll talk about wearable device information, followed by discussing the factors that can influence wear performance. Then I'll provide some information on skin adhesive requirements, followed by an overview of some platform technologies that Adhesive Research have developed to meet the requirements of the wearable device market. Then there will be a summary of our value proposition, followed by an overview on our other healthcare technology offerings. According to verified market research, the global wearable skin patch market was valued at just over $6 billion in 2019, as predicted to grow at a compound annual rate of 88.54% to a value of over $726 billion by 2027. The drivers include an increasing prevalence of lifestyle diseases, the rising number of geriatric populations, cost-effective in-home healthcare monitoring, greater ease of use and comfort at home, and increasing development funds and tax benefits for startups and venture capitalists. The restraining factors then include data security issues, the relatively high cost of wearable devices, long product approval cycles, and non-skin wireless devices, including smartphones, watches, bands, and eyewear. There are a number of healthcare and medical applications that have a requirement for our wearable skin patches. These include diabetes management applications such as continuous glucose monitoring and insulin delivery devices, cardiovascular applications such as heart rate and ECG monitoring, and for defibrillators and other diagnostic devices. In the pharmaceutical sector for drug delivery, and for other patient monitoring such as fever monitoring. There are also a number of consumer, fitness, sports, wellness, and cosmetic applications, such as sports and analytics, cosmetics, and other tracking devices. With such a vast array of wearable devices currently on the market, combined with the predicted growth, it is critical to understand how device design affects wear performance. Each device and its intended application poses unique challenges for device attachment. Device shape, height, weight, and composition can all influence wear performance. Larger shaped devices with a higher profile and an increased weight pose a more difficult challenge and may be best suited to larger areas on the body with less movement, such as the lower abdomen. Wearable devices are typically composed of low surface energy materials. Selecting an appropriate adhesive to suit the device composition is essential for achieving optimum performance. Skin properties can greatly influence wear performance. As skin is such a variable substrate, it is critical to understand the target market for which the device is intended. Age, gender, race, diet, and environment can all have an influence on wear performance. Older skin is thinner with a thinner epidermis layer, what makes it more fragile. It also has less collagen fibers, resulting in a loss of elasticity, contributing to more wrinkles. As we age, we can also experience a loss of oil and sweat glands, which can contribute to drier skin. All of these factors result in the requirement for a more gentle formulation for older skin. In terms of the surface energy then, clean, dry skin can have a surface energy of 27 dynes per centimetre, but on the forehead it can be up to 52 dynes per centimetre. Perspiration can also vary by location, individual and activity level, ranging from 100 to 8,000 millilitres per day. The location on the body can also influence wear performance. Selecting an area where there is less movement can dramatically influence wear performance. Let me demonstrate by outlining a study that we completed here at Adhesive Research. In this study, which contains 6 different devices, participants were requested to apply the patches to the abdomen area. They were applied in such a way that they were rotated, in such a way that, for example, participant 1 applied sample number 1 to location 1, and participant 2 applied sample number 1 to location 2, and so on and so forth. As illustrated in the following image, outlining the anatomy of the body, we can see that the upper abdomen is subject to more movement. So let's see then how that compares to the ones on the lower abdomen area. As can be viewed in this box plot, the samples that were worn in the positions located on the upper abdomen area, that is, locations 1 and 6, performed less favourably. They had a much broader range of wear performance, and a similar performance was observed for both. Whereas the samples in the lower abdomen area contained a much narrower spread of data and performed much more favourably. Another contributing factor here was the fact that there were so many different devices worn, increasing the probability that they'd knock against each other and contributing to fall-offs. The substrate type can also influence wear performance. Here we see the results of a wear study performed with 4 different substrates: polyurethane, polyester, polypropylene, and polyethylene. The time worn is illustrated in the box plot. As can be observed, the samples with the polyurethane and polyester samples performed most favourably, in contrast to the polyethylene and the polypropylene samples. In contrast, when we look at the pain scale and removal ratings, we can see that the PU and the polyester samples performed less favourably than the polypropylene and the polyethylene samples. This information can be used to select the best substrate for the application. So for instance, if a wear time of 14 days was the most critical attribute, then a polyurethane or a polyester substrate would be the most preferred candidate. But for instance, where you may have geriatric or pediatric skin, then the polyethylene substrate may be the best choice. That is why it is so critical to understand where the device is going to be worn and what target market. Adhesive selection for skin attachment is critical to assure proper therapeutic dose delivery and device function. Achieving the correct properties is a balancing act. Trying to increase the values of one property will likely have a knock-on effect on the other properties. It is critical to obtain a good design input to determine the critical properties so that the best option may be selected. One of the most critical parameters that need to be taken into consideration when developing a skin-friendly adhesive for device attachment is bond strength. The following graph illustrates the difference in bond strength that may be required from one application to the next. For example, a peel adhesion of 1 newtons for 25 millimeters may be required for pediatric or geriatric applications with a wear time of up to 24 hours. This increases to 5 newtons for a longer term wear up to 7 days, and can be up to 30 newtons when you apply a weight, and then up to even 40 newtons when you've got for weight-bearing adhesive applications. The pictures here illustrate the failure modes that can be observed if the adequate adhesion is not achieved. So if we look at the patch that's on the top left, we can see that it is well bonded to the skin, indicating that adequate bond strength is achieved. If we look at the patch on the top right, we can see some evidence of tunneling, indicating that the bond strength may be a little bit too low. If we looked in the patch on the bottom, we can see that there is edge lifting all around the edge and the perimeters. This is an indication that the bond strength is not adequate. Biocompatibility is testing a device to determine the potential toxicity resulting from bodily contact with a material or medical device. The testing needs to be completed according to ISO 10993 standards. The tests that are typically completed are cytotoxicity, skin irritation, and skin sensitization. Cytotoxicity is completed in vitro. So it's completed on cells, and you're looking for effects on cells, such as cell lysis, inhibition of cell growth, and colony formation. For skin irritation, then that's completed in vivo, in direct contact with the body, and you're looking for irritation or an immediate response. For the skin sensitization, that's also conducted in vivo on the body, but you're looking at more a delayed or allergic response from the repeated or prolonged exposure. It is characterized by the fact that the reaction is delayed, independent of dose, and not localized. The MVTR of the tape has to be high so that any vapor produced by the skin can pass through. Excess moisture on the skin surface would compromise the bond and may lead to edge lifting or patch fall-offs. Skin with excess moisture is also more prone to infection and maceration, such as illustrated in the following diagram. The MVTR rate increases with increased wear time. The graph shows how the MVTR can be modified by modifying the coat weight. So here we see, for example, when the coat weight was 68 GSM, we achieved an MVTR level of 400 grams per meter squared per day. When this coat weight was reduced to 38 GSM, the MVTR rate increased to 1,000 grams per meter squared per day. Skin adhesives for device attachments also need to be able to retain adhesive properties after sterilization. Gamma sterilization, ethylene oxide sterilization, and E-beam sterilization are typical sterilization techniques used. Sterilization can generate free radicals, which can lead to polymer cross-linking. This can alter the adhesive properties. The adhesive formulations can be modified in such a way as to withstand the effects of the sterilization techniques. Here we see illustrated in this graph an example of how the adhesive maintained its peel adhesion post-exposure to gamma sterilization at a dose of 25 kilograms. The shear strength of adhesive then is the maximum shear stress in the adhesive prior to failure under torsional load. High shear strength is required to support device weight with minimal movement or creep. The shear strength of the adhesive can be evaluated by applying a load of a defined weight, often 500 grams, to an adhesive tape which is bonded to a panel. The time it takes for the bond to foil is an indication of your shear strength. This graph shows how the shear strength of a weight-bearing adhesive compared to that of a standard acrylic. As can be observed, it is greater than 10 times higher. Pain on removal is another critical performance parameter, particularly for pediatric or geriatric applications, or in instances where reapplication is required. This is assessed by completing wear studies, where participants are requested to provide a pain scale and rating removal ranging from 0 for no pain to 4 to the worst possible pain. Here we see on this graph the example we illustrated in an earlier slide, where the polyurethane and the polyester samples provided the higher ratings and the PE samples provided the most performable performance. Skin condition on removal is also a critical parameter. Again, here participants are requested to provide a rating for skin condition on removal, ranging from 0 to no visible response, to 4 to bright fiery response with edema present. Again, here we can see that the polyethylene and the polypropylene substrates performed the most favorably. So again, we touched on this earlier, conformability is critical. We could see here that if you selected a substrate that had a too high a profile, it could basically lead to the patches being knocked off. In contrast then, when you look at a substrate that may be very light or flimsy, constructions need to be rigid enough not to fold over onto itself, but flexible enough to be conformable. I will go through some key features and attributes of some of the platform technologies that adhesive research have developed to meet the requirements of the wearable device market. We will see how the requirements we discussed earlier fit into the different categories. First, let's look at what layers are typically required for bonding a wearable device to the skin. Typically, a double-sided tape is used where you have a skin-friendly adhesive on one side of a specially selected substrate and a device bonding adhesive on the other side. Both sides are protected with release liners, which can be removed. So let's look at our low-surface energy adhesives that are typically required for bonding components in medical devices. So you have different options possible. You've got acrylic, rubber, silicone, and hybrid chemistries. You can achieve a permanent or removable bond depending on the application requirements. They provided as a transfer film, so that's on its own with 2 release liners, or in combination with a skin adhesive as a double-sided tape. The selected formulation needs to contain clean, non-cytotoxic chemistries. They're ideal for patch pumps, infusion pumps, and general device bonding. Weight-bearing adhesives reliably and comfortably bond a weighted device for treatment or monitoring. Tailoring adhesive properties for short or long-term wear is possible. These provide good shear resistance for less movement. They offer up to 10 times that of a standard acrylic adhesive to support device state with minimal movement or creep. They can be removed without compromising skin integrity. They can withstand typical sterilization techniques such as ethylene oxide sterilization, gamma sterilization, and E-beam sterilization. They are biocompatible per ISO 10993. They're non-cytotoxic, are non-irritating, and non-sensitizing. So AR skin-friendly platforms address unique challenges of skin attachment. They offer tailorable wear duration, adhesion to multiple locations of the body, minimal pain upon adhesive removal. They're suitable for sterilization, and they offer good cost control with tape configurations to reduce material costs. The value we bring to you includes providing design flexibility with expensive polymer science expertise, joint development programs, and route to market alignment. We offer fast development capabilities with access to our experienced custom solution teams, enabling end-to-end development supported by dedicated program management, resulting in unique turnkey solutions for extraordinary outcomes. We have research and development and manufacturing facilities located at both our corporate headquarters in Glenrock, Pennsylvania, and also in Limerick, Ireland, as well as converting capabilities in Glenrock. And we also have offices based in Shanghai, China. As well as skin adhesives and device adhesives for wearable devices, we provide other skin-friendly adhesives such as short-term wear adhesives and long-term wear adhesives. We offer hydrophilic adhesive and coatings for diagnostic and microfluidic device applications. We offer cover tapes to enable secure seals, and we offer spacer tapes with tight thickness tolerances for use in diagnostic applications. Thank you for your interest and attention. If you would like any further information or would like to discuss your application requirements with us, we would love to hear from you. The contact details are outlined in this slide. Thank you again for your attention. Now we'll move on to the Q&A session. I welcome any questions you may have, and you can submit your questions by using the Q&A button on the bottom of your screen. So we'll just get started here with the first question that came in from an anonymous viewer. So which substrate was used to compare required bond strength, and was the experiment carried out on skin? So just to kind of go through that, so for that study that was conducted, it was conducted on a number of different substrates. So we used a number of our kind of standard technologies and the substrates that they're typically used with. So it varied, and there may have been polyurethanes and polyester nonwovens in it and different types of materials. And it was conducted then on our stainless steel kind of standard panels, as opposed to being carried out on the skin. So, sorry, now just move this over. So we have another question here from Kai, and the question is, how long can the adhesive stay on the skin? Is it maximum of 7 days possible, and is it possible to go under the shower? So just to kind of separate that out into several questions, we'll just separate them out. So in terms of how long it can last on the skin, our current adhesive technologies can last up to 14 days on the skin, and we're actually currently developing a product that can last up to 28 days and beyond. And to address the question, is it possible to go under the shower? The answer is yes, absolutely it is. We develop our long-term wear adhesives so that they're designed to be worn for everyday applications, and this includes showering. So when we conduct our wear studies, we request that the participants carry on their normal day-to-day activities, which includes showering. So let's move on to the next question. It's on your website, you mentioned customizable product construction for your software adhesives. And you're asking what way is the construction customizable? So just to address your question there. So the software adhesives can be customized in a number of different ways. So for example, we can tailor the adhesion to go from a range from a couple of hours up until 3-day wear time. We can tailor the adhesive thickness if required, and we can also tailor the substrate using any of your substrates of choice. Okay, so there's a question here from Francesco. I'm just trying to see what it is. How conformability, stretchability on the skins are tested? How to achieve reproducible, controllable conditions for these tests? So what we do is we use our standard test methods often for doing testing. Sometimes, I know we were saying earlier for the graph, we illustrated that it was done on skin. Sometimes we do peels on skin to see how they behave. When we're looking to get kind of controllable tests as well, we try to keep everything controlled. For some of the more stretchable substrates, we provide a more rigid backing as well to help take out that effect of any stretching that's observed. Okay, just move on. Okay, there's another question here saying, what trends are you seeing in the wearable adhesive market and what are the current challenges to overcome? So just to answer that question then, the trends that we're seeing in the wearable device market is to kind of basic for longer terms wear. And what we're seeing is kind of looking for the future of patient care, where you're looking for kind of like combining sensors with wireless technology for continuous health monitoring in clinical studies and also in the home environment. So there's another one here. I can see from your presentation that the coat thickness has an effect on the MVTR. Are there any other properties other than coat thickness that affect the MVTR? So just to kind of address that question. So basically, yes, there are other effects that can affect the MVTR other than coat thickness. For example, the adhesive chemistries can affect the MVTR performance. Typically, for example, the acrylic adhesives would inherently have a higher MVTR rate than the silicone adhesives. So there's a question here. How do you balance the need for strong adhesion on the skin under heavy sweating with the need for application of disposable devices on multiple consecutive days? So just to answer, it's a very good question. So here, as I said, that's where it's very important to know the application exactly and know it well. So
if, for example, it was going to be on for just a short number of time and it was disposable and it was going to be reworn, so if your wear time was only a couple of hours, we go for more like our software technology here, rather than going towards our long-term wear technology. So it's really about understanding the application. And again, if we know that for the application that the participant is going to be there's going to be a lot of heavy sweating, we'll factor that into consideration if that was a need for, say, that kind of target market, if it was involved, say, in some sort of a sports application or something like that. So hopefully that answers your question. So I think Thomas has come back with another question to my question earlier on. So it's just, Thomas, you were saying, how was the test carried out about the different substrates and the comparison, how long the wear time was? Double-sided adhesive, why is there such a difference between substrates because of conformability or rigidity? So Thomas, they're kind of good questions. And so, you know, when we did the test with different samples, what we did, we coated and prepared the samples on the specific substrate as we felt they were kind of more applicable to different applications and different things. And, you know, for something that we were kind of addressing towards the long term, where we would have done the wear study on that particular product and seen how long it was going to be worn, and then we'd be able to do the peel and kind of monitor them and address them and match them both up. So for double-sided adhesive, no, typically it would have been done on single-sided adhesives. And yes, different substrates as well, they can affect the performance as well for the peel. Okay, so there's another question here. It's a very good question. Do we have any electrically conductive adhesives for skin applications? So just to address that here. And yes, we offer skin-friendly conductive adhesives for transmitting current through layers of device, for forming electrical interconnections and bonding electrical components. We can work with you to customize the conductive adhesive to meet your requirements by modifying the adhesive chemistries, the fillers, the forms and the constructions, and the adhesive thickness and release liners to meet your specific needs. There's another question here from Kai. Is it possible to get samples through your contact? If yes, how? So Kai, yes, most certainly. We welcome and would love to hear from you and get you some samples. If you could there's contact details here on the screen. If you can use the contact information there and submit your requirements in terms of what samples you need, and could talk to some of our salespeople and we'll be able to look after you there. That's no problem. So there's a question here from Roberto, and another good question following on from the one on the electrical conductivities. Are the electrical properties of the adhesive characterized? Can they be made conductive? So that pretty much was the question earlier on, do we supply conductive adhesives? And yes, the answer is yes. So what we will do as well, we'll characterize them here by measuring the volume resistivity, and we'll look at it in kind of like different ways and in different formats for you. And if you have any specific conductivity requirements, we could kind of discuss that with you and tailor the adhesive to meet that requirements. There was a question here from Bose. Are there special procedures or materials to assist in painless removal of adhesive patches? But to answer that, that would particularly end if it was a case where somebody was kind of getting kind of healthcare monitoring and they were in with, for some particular applications, such as kind of long-term diabetes management, sometimes people will go to clinics, and in that special instance, they'd have specially trained people that would help in removing the patches. Okay, so I hope that answers that question. Another question here saying, are the substrates printable? So just to address that, yes, we can certainly provide samples which are with substrates that are printable. If you can just maybe even discuss your requirements with us using the contact details, we can kind of address that further with you and talk to you further about that. And question here for Francesco. Thanks for your question, Francesco. You're just asking, are release aids, sprays, liquid requirements recommended for release of your adhesives for reducing pain and or peeling force? And just to address that, with our current adhesives and the technologies, we currently don't have anything that we specifically recommend for as a release aid or for sprays or different options that we would provide, say, with the product. Typically, like if you're going to go for a low pain and removal, our software adhesive technology is designed to be kind of pretty much painless, and that will reduce the pain as it is. So if your particular requirement for an application was based around that, that's how we would address that. So another question here. How do you typically work with your customers in terms of custom development of adhesive products? So typically what we would do is the first step will be to reach out and contact us using the contact information on the screen. If you do that, then it will be assigned to different people. We will initially, first of all, the salespeople will talk to you and discuss your requirements. Then we will maybe set up a call with myself or one of my colleagues in the innovation department. We will go through your particular design requirements and discuss them with you. And then from that stage on, once we engage in the development, we will engage in very regular conversations and kind of regular calls with you and kind of work with you to develop your product as it is being developed and as your requirements arise as well. Once we kind of go further in, then we will kind of develop a specific PDR or project to kind of with a dedicated team ranging from like having our engineers, our innovation and sales and quality all kind of combined to deliver all those requirements for you. Now, there's a question from Sandra. Have you worked with nanocellulose-based substrates? And just to address that, like certainly myself, I don't believe we have. I haven't. If it's something that you were interested in, maybe we could discuss that with us, and we're open to different options into exploring and new avenues. So that's certainly something that we can kind of talk with you further and learn a bit more. So if you want to kind of reach out to us by using the contact information, we can kind of address that for you, Sandra. So, Kai, there's another question here. So polypropylene has the least influence on maceration. Is that correctly interpreted from the graph? So for the different maceration and kind of like from the skin, and that's a lot of that's related to the MBTR. So that's something that kind of from that graph was more on the pain and removal or rating as well. That's if I kind of interpreting your question right, Kai? So Francesco, you're asking is resistant to perforation and microperforation. So just to address that, Francesco, so basically we can use a substrate and a product certainly that would be, and we have done in the past, had some of our products have gone through the perforation process successfully. And this then in turn will also improve the breathability or the MBTR of the construction. So Kai is just asking there, is it in context of the weight? So you're saying in terms of the weight of the overall construction, and in terms of this is for the breathability. So yes, the weight of the whole construction will have an influence as well, not just the adhesive, but the substrate as well. Now, Edith, you have a question there saying, are there any adhesives in your range with long-term wear suitable with immersion? So just to answer that, in terms of immersion, do you mean in kind of terms of bathing and for bathing, for bathing and for, you know, going beyond showering, or for kind of like swimming and different activities? So when we look at our long-term wear adhesives, like typically we've even had people that have gone swimming with our adhesives on it, and some have even gone into a sauna and they've withstanded that. So certainly we do have long-term wear adhesives which are suitable for immersion, if I understand that correctly. So another question here, when the skin is oily, is there a need to pre-clean it prior to adhesive applications? So yes, when we're even doing our wear studies as well here, we recommend that the skin is kind of cleaned, particularly if there was any kind of levels after a lot of moisturization as well, it'll affect it, just to keep everything standard. But I mean, we design our skin for our performance for both oily skin and dry skin. So it could be warm, but it always helps to kind of pre-clean the area prior to application.
Hey everyone, this is great to see so many questions coming in, but just to give you a time check on that, we only have 1 or 2 minutes left, so if you have any further questions, please submit them now.
Okay, thank you, Karen. There's another question here from Francesco. What is the thinnest substrate and adhesive you manufacture? So Francesco, just to address that question, so basically, you know, what we do with my specialize is on custom development. So if you have a particular thickness of substrate that you want us to use, we can certainly talk to you and go through your application requirements and needs. And if you have a particular thickness that you want to achieve, we can certainly look at that and talk to you about that and find a way that it's achievable for you. So Kai, I see here you have a question here on polypropylene lighter weight, less ratio. I think maybe if you kind of get in contact with us, we can kind of, you know, discuss this with you a little bit further. You know, if you have a particular interest in maceration, we can kind of discuss those needs with you, and we will get in contact with you, and we'll discuss that, and we'll go through and find options for you to kind of meet your application requirements. So Kai, you were saying your last contact with Sean Meany, should I go through him? Yeah, Sean, please feel free to reach out to Sean, Kai.
Okay. as I think we're officially out of time at this stage. Thank you all so much for your interest and your participation in the Q&As, but I think we have to leave it there for now. Okay, so please reach out and contact us, and the contact details here on the slide. So at marketing. So, okay, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.